At its peak, the Roman Empire controlled over 5 million square kilometers of land and governed an estimated 70 million people, roughly 1/4 of the entire world's population at the time. One civilization. One administrative system. One military machine. Dominating the known world for centuries. How did a small city on the banks of the Tiber River become the greatest empire the ancient world ever produced? In the next 10 minutes, you are going to discover exactly how Rome built its empire from the ground up, through military innovation, political engineering, and a system of integration that no civilization before it had ever attempted. We will cover the wars, the strategy, the infrastructure, and the one counterintuitive approach Rome used that most empires never figured out. And that final insight completely changes how you understand Roman power. Rome did not begin as an empire. It began as a small Latin settlement in central Italy, traditionally founded around 753 BCE. For its first 2.5 centuries, Rome was ruled by kings. But in 509 BCE, the Romans expelled their last king, Tarquinius Superbus, and established a republic. This political shift was foundational. Power was now distributed between elected consuls, a powerful senate, and various assemblies representing citizens. This structure created accountability and competition within the governing class, two forces that, paradoxically, fueled military aggression outward. By the 4th century BCE, Rome began systematically expanding across the Italian peninsula. The Latin Wars, the Samnite Wars, and the conquest of the Etruscan city-states were not random conflicts. They were deliberate campaigns to control strategic geography, agricultural land, and trade routes. By 270 BCE, Rome controlled virtually the entire Italian peninsula south of the Po Valley. But here is what most people miss entirely about this phase of Roman expansion. Rome did not just conquer its neighbors. It absorbed them. Defeated Italian peoples were not enslaved or destroyed as a default policy. Many were granted Roman citizenship or allied status. They paid taxes, supplied soldiers, and built roads. In exchange, they received the protection of Roman law and access to Roman trade networks. This system of differential citizenship, where different groups held different levels of rights, was a political masterstroke. It meant Rome could expand its manpower base with every conquest rather than draining itself through perpetual subjugation. The Roman military machine itself was a product of constant adaptation. The early Roman army modeled itself on the Greek phalanx, a rigid formation of heavily armed infantry fighting in tight rows. But during the Samnite Wars of the late 4th century BCE, Rome encountered mountainous terrain and guerrilla tactics that the phalanx simply could not handle. Roman commanders responded by reorganizing their forces into the manipular system, smaller, more flexible units called maniples that could operate independently across broken ground. This shift was not merely tactical. It was a philosophical change in how Rome understood warfare. Flexibility became a core military value. Roman soldiers were also professionals in a way most ancient armies were not. By the late Republic, following the reforms of General Gaius Marius around 107 BCE, the army transitioned from a property-based citizen militia to a full professional standing force. Soldiers served for 16 to 20 years, were paid a salary, and received land grants upon discharge. This created a highly trained, deeply loyal fighting force that could sustain campaigns across years and continents. Marius also standardized equipment, introduced the famous segmented training drills, and restructured the army around the cohort, 10 cohorts per legion, each cohort containing roughly 480 men. By the 3rd century BCE, Rome turned its attention beyond Italy. The Punic Wars against Carthage, the great maritime power of North Africa, tested Rome as it had never been tested before. The First Punic War, from 264 to 241 BCE, forced Rome to build an entirely new navy almost from scratch. Roman engineers famously copied a captured Carthaginian warship design and then trained thousands of rowers in just 60 days using benches set up on dry land. They also invented the corvus, a boarding bridge that could be dropped onto enemy ships, turning naval combat into something Rome understood: infantry fighting at close range. Rome won. It gained Sicily, its first overseas province. The Second Punic War, from 218 to 201 BCE, brought Hannibal Barca and his army, elephants included, across the Alps and into Italy itself. Hannibal won devastating victories at Trebia, Lake Trasimene, and most catastrophically at Cannae in 216 BCE, where Roman forces suffered somewhere between 50,000 and 70,000 dead in a single afternoon. It remains one of the bloodiest single-day battles in all of human history. And yet Rome did not collapse. The Senate refused to negotiate. Italy held. Rome rebuilt its armies and ultimately defeated Carthage on its own soil, ending the war with the complete submission of its greatest rival. But here is what nobody talks about when discussing Roman military success. The real weapon was not the legion. It was the road. Rome constructed over 80,000 kilometers of paved roads across its empire. These roads were engineered masterpieces, layered with gravel, sand, and stone, built with drainage ditches, and maintained by dedicated workforces. They served one primary military function, moving legions quickly. A Roman army could march up to 40 kilometers per day on these roads. Rebellions could be crushed before they spread. Reinforcements could arrive before sieges collapsed. The road network also enabled commerce, communication, and cultural integration at a scale that had never previously existed. The late Republic saw Rome's most explosive period of territorial expansion. Julius Caesar's campaigns in Gaul between 58 and 50 BCE added an enormous swath of Western Europe to Roman control. Caesar's own account, the Gallic Wars, records that his campaigns killed over 1 million Gauls and enslaved another million. These are his own figures. The territory he conquered, modern France, Belgium, and parts of Switzerland and Germany, brought extraordinary wealth back to Rome and fundamentally shifted the power balance of the Republic. The political instability that followed Caesar's assassination in 44 BCE and the subsequent civil wars ultimately transformed Rome from a republic into an empire. Augustus Caesar, Rome's first emperor, came to power in 27 BCE and ruled until 14 CE. Under Augustus, Roman territorial expansion became more calculated and strategic. He extended Roman control into the Iberian Peninsula, established firm borders along the Rhine and Danube rivers, and secured Egypt after defeating Mark Antony and Cleopatra. Egypt alone, as the breadbasket of the Mediterranean, generated revenues that transformed Rome's economic capacity. Augustus also understood something critical that his predecessors had not fully institutionalized. Conquered peoples needed a reason to accept Roman rule voluntarily. His solution was Romanization, the deliberate spread of Roman culture, language, law, and urban planning throughout the provinces. Local elites were encouraged to adopt Roman dress, Latin language, and Roman civic identity. Cities were built according to Roman urban templates: forum, basilica, amphitheater, aqueduct, public baths. These were not just amenities. They were political tools, creating populations who saw themselves as Roman rather than as subjects of Rome. The economic engine behind all of this was equally sophisticated. Rome operated a complex trade network stretching from Britain to India. Silk came from China through Parthian intermediaries. Spices arrived from the Indian subcontinent. Grain flowed from Egypt and North Africa. Roman silver coins found in India and Roman glassware discovered in China testify to a commercial reach that extended far beyond the empire's military borders. This trade generated tax revenue that funded legions, which protected trade routes, which generated more revenue. It was a self-reinforcing system of imperial power. Rome's greatest achievement was arguably not military conquest at all. It was the legal and administrative framework it imposed on vastly different peoples spread across 3 continents. Roman law codified property rights, contracts, inheritance, and civic responsibility in ways that created predictability and stability for commerce and governance alike. Provinces were administered by appointed governors accountable to Rome. Tax collection was systematized. Local disputes were adjudicated within a Roman legal framework. This bureaucratic architecture is why Rome's influence outlasted the empire itself. Its legal principles form the foundation of legal systems across Europe and the Americas to this day. Before you go, if you learned something valuable today, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to History Vault YT for a brand new video every single day. We will see you in the next one.